about the Kennedy assassination, you had St. John Hunt on your program.
Correct.
E. Howard Hunt's son. I've had him on this program too. Fascinating. Why didn't the mainstream media report E. Howard Hunt basically fingering Lyndon Johnson, that he knew what was going to happen, and this French...
well, he fingered William Harvey, who was head of the CIA's assassination unit at that time,
right,
along with David Sanchez Morales.
Right, and then the sharpshooter from France, who he said pulled the trigger. Most likely pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And that Johnson knew about it. I think that's fascinating. I think it's interesting.
Well, the point of the matter is that St. John Hunt also looked at the photo of the three tramps taken in Dealey Plaza that day, and is almost certain that the old tramp is his father.
Yeah, he talked about that. Why do you think E. Howard Hunt didn't say anything till he thought he was dying?
I don't know, but what was eerie about the confession was that it wasn't a confession of remorse. It was a confession of pride.
Yeah.
He was proud. He wanted the world to know, we ridded you of this president that wasn't good for our country, apparently.
When I talked to St. John, he said that, he didn't like Lyndon, but he disliked Kennedy more, so just what you said. He was kind of happy that it was done.
Well, who knows?
It's interesting. The Kennedy...
but the point of the matter is, I'll tell you why mainstream media won't even report it. Because, I always love to quote Denzel Washington when he did the movie Malcolm X. And Denzel's playing Malcolm, and he says, "You've been bamboozled." Well, we've been bamboozled, and the media's part of it. The media's been selling us Oswald for 50 years. Do you think they're going to come out and admit they were wrong?
Highly unlikely.
Completely unlikely.
Yeah.
You could walk up with a tape of the thing. You could have a tape of the shooter behind the grassy knoll, and they still wouldn't believe it.
Governor, I've heard this asked of you so many times, and I'm always fascinated by how you answer it, because you don't exactly say no, but you don't exactly say yes. Why? Because you are a popular figure in pop culture and in politics. Why don't you give a firm answer on running for office again?
Because I'm not committed to doing so. I'm not inspired to do so. And in order to go after one of those offices and defeat the Democrats and Republicans, as I've done on 2 occasions, both as mayor of Brooklyn Park and as governor of Minnesota, you have to be focused and inspired. And I'm not. I do not want to serve in office right now for multiple reasons, and I enjoy my freedom. When you hold those jobs, you lose your freedom. I would rather have my freedom right now. And I guess if I can quote Steven Tyler from Aerosmith in his latest book, Steven said when he reached 60, he realized he only had 20 summers left. Maybe.
Yeah, that's very true. Could anything...
Excuse me, and that's kind of how I feel. And not only that, I'll be blunt. Right now, in the state that this country's in and what I see in this country, they got to prove it to me it's worth it to me to do it. And right now, they're not showing me it's worth it.
What could inspire you to do it?
What caused me to not do it was here in Minnesota. The last governor's election, we had an independent candidate, Tom Horner, who was the most qualified. He was the only one that came up with a budget before the election that showed what he would do with the deficit, $6 billion, that the Democrats and Republicans created. He got endorsed by myself, former Republican Governor Arnie Carlson, former Republican Governor Al Quie, former Republican Senator Dave Durenberger. He got endorsed by both major newspapers, and I didn't get any of those. And the guy gets 12% of the vote. So my view is, you people pick these Democrats and Republicans to lead you. Well, good. I hope you enjoy what you get. Because we offered you a candidate here in Minnesota that was more qualified than I was. And he gets 12% of the vote. Why? Because he doesn't have Jesse Ventura's dynamic personality?
Don't you think, though, in politics that that's the case all around the board, though, now? That it's...
Well, if that's the case, then I don't particularly want to participate in it.
Do you think that we have always elected the most qualified person, and not even in the last 40 years, before that? I don't know that we always did that.
No, I know we haven't, because the two political parties pick their standard bearer. You're getting what the political parties offer you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily the best person for the job.
Governor, I haven't heard you speak on this. What are your thoughts on the Osama bin Laden capture?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a capture, it was an elimination.
Right. Yeah, turned
There's
into
a difference.
that. Yeah.
Well, first of all, they sent the right unit, the Navy SEALs. We're the ones trained to do that type of work. We're the ones that will be successful at it if given the opportunity and the right conditions. And I saw that the SEALs still operate the same way they did in Vietnam. When they go into a situation like that, they will give the person one opportunity to surrender. If that person does not exercise that opportunity, they will be eliminated. Nothing's changed. So when you send the SEALs in, you have to be fully aware that people quite possibly are going to die. So having said that, I'm proud of my SEAL brothers. They did the job. If it's true, they did the job and they did it well and they did it to what they practiced for, and they made me proud. Now, I will say this. I still have a feeling in the pit of my stomach. It has nothing to do with the Navy SEALs. It has to do with my country lying to me so often. How can I believe what they're telling me here is the truth? They lied to me about the murder of Pat Tillman. They lied to me about the rescue of Jessica Lynch. They lied to me about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They lied to me about Iraq having ties to Al-Qaeda. And they lied to me about the Gulf of Tonkin incident that put us in Vietnam. When somebody lies to me that often, their credibility suffers, and I don't really know if I can believe them. Is this the truth? I don't know.
A lot of people, because they didn't show the pictures and the body was dumped at sea, have said that exact same thing.
Well, I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of, okay, bin Laden was on dialysis 10 years ago, correct?
Right.
And all the experts that say they know the disease he had said it's usually fatal within 2 to 3 years. I would question how he survived at 10.
It is, yeah. A lot of questions, and I think the questions are good. I want to throw out some names to you because you've led such a diverse life. I'm going to throw out a name. You can give me a word, you can give me a phrase, your thoughts, whatever on these people. Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, he governed during the United States' most successful and prosperous years in my lifetime, I think. Now, was it some of it false? Maybe so. Maybe it came back to bite us in the 2000 years, I don't know. But at the time he was president, we prospered like no other time in history financially.
George W. Bush.
The kid?
The kid.
The worst president in my lifetime. He destroyed my American dream. I never believed as a veteran that we would line our military up at the border of another sovereign nation and that we would attack that nation, overthrow its government, and occupy them when they didn't do anything to us. That's what the Russians did. That's what the Nazis did. And George Bush has ruined my American dream. He is the worst president in my lifetime.
Barack Obama.
Big disappointment. He ran on change we can believe in. I can't see anything different between him and George Bush except the color of his skin.
Now, I think a lot of people would disagree with you. What would you say to them who say he was handed a bad situation?
Oh, he certainly was. I don't deny that. Barack Obama was handed a situation I wouldn't give to my worst enemy. He was given 2 wars, and he was given an economy that was in shambles. But what did he do? He told us he would get us out of the wars. He hasn't. He's escalated the wars. He said he would close Gitmo. He has not. He won't even try them. He's defying the Constitution, just like George Bush did. The Constitution says they're to be tried in either Washington, Pennsylvania, or New York. one of those three places, and yet you were never going to hear the truth because Gitmo is going to be covered up just like the so-called murder of Bin Laden is.
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin is an out-and-out quitter. I cannot believe the media gives her a pass on that, and how anyone could consider her for president, someone who would quit halfway through their term just to go cash in and get money and get rich, because that's what she did. And I, having gone through BUD/S training, SEAL training, I don't take very kindly to quitters, because we don't accept them in SEAL training. If I remember every guy I graduated with, I remember nobody who quit.
I want to throw back here, the next two names are from, of course, a past career of yours. Vince McMahon, what do you make of him?
He is the P.T. Barnum of my generation. He's a ruthless businessman, like most of them are. His business comes before anything, which is why they are successful businessmen like they are. But I have respect for Vince, but, I've had my ups and downs with him. But, for the most part, he's just a ruthless businessman, and you meet them throughout your career.
Would you ever go back?
Would I ever go back?
Not to wrestle, but to do... you went back last year to commentate. I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
Well, that was only to promote my TV show.
Would you ever go back on any kind of basis?
I don't think so. I've gone beyond wrestling. You never say never, but I don't even watch it today. I don't even know who the wrestlers are, so I would have to start watching it for about 6 months before I'd ever dare go back to do it. And I have no interest in that anymore.
Last name, Hulk Hogan.
I don't think much at all about him. He turned me in basically and stooged me for trying to unionize wrestling, and I've had a great dislike for him ever since that happened, and that happened after I had left the business when I learned during my federal lawsuit that had taken place. And so I really don't think of him anymore, and I know he got divorced and his family kind of went in shambles, and that's too bad, I guess, but he brought it on himself, I think.
Thank you. That's very honest. Governor, I heard you on Piers Morgan not too long ago, and you said could be next year, could be 10 years, but that Jesse Ventura, who is essentially, I don't want to say is a character, but it's a character name. It wasn't your birth name.
Right.
Might go away. If he can go away, who does that leave? Who's left?
I don't know, but that could very well happen. What I was saying on Piers was I created Jesse Ventura. He was born in 1975, and I will be the one who kills him because I created him. You can call me Dr. Frankenstein if you want.
And you don't know what'll be left?
I don't know when it'll happen, but it will happen. And what I mean by that is I'm not literally going to commit suicide. I hope people understand that. I would never do that. But what I will do is I will drop from the public eye and you'll never see me again.
This is interesting then. If Jesse Ventura was a character created by you in the 70s, who is he?
He is what I've evolved to through all my life experiences, and he's an evolution of what I have become.
I have to ask you this, because you're so interesting.
Because I do believe in evolution,
Thank God somebody does. I have to ask you this because this fascinates me. You're one of the rare people in life you'll ever meet that was successful in pro wrestling. You hit the pinnacle. You hit the pinnacle in politics, and now you've hit the pinnacle outside of that, doing television work and things of that nature. You were the body in wrestling. Does anybody still call you that? Because when you first became elected governor, that's all they said. Well,
when you're going to be 60 this summer, it's kind of hard to keep that moniker of the body because, I'm in good shape, but, I'm not what I used to be. Like all athletes, when you reach 60 years old, you're not what you were at 30 or 25. The one opponent you can never defeat is Father Time. And I don't really carry that moniker anymore. I like to be addressed as governor because it's an achievement that I did do, and everybody told me it couldn't be done. And I can put that on my gravestone now if I desire to. But I'm probably not finished yet. I don't know. But then again, I could be finished. I'm really at a dilemma right now in my career of where I want to go with it. Do I reinvent myself again, or do I just ride off into the sunset abruptly and work on my life's desire now to become a paddle surfer?
Governor, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
This may seem like an odd question, but you have so many different incarnations physically. When you were in the wrestling business, you dressed more outrageous than just about anybody. When you became governor, you shaved the head. I've seen you with long hair, gray hair, not always a suit, certainly. Well, what is that? Is that just part of who you are? Are you just a colorful guy?
Well, I swore to myself when I came out of the Navy that no one would ever tell me how to dress again. You know, because when you're in the Navy, naturally you're in the military, and you all got to dress alike, and you all got to be perfect. You got to look good. Your boots got to be polished, this and that. So when I got out of the Navy, I just made myself a promise. I said, okay, I will never ever be told how to dress again. I will choose how I want to look. And I like to be a chameleon because it buys me seclusion. I'll keep a look for a while, but when I leave that, I like to change my look because I now am changing. I'm not that person anymore, per se. That's why I grew my hair out when I left governor, and I grew a beard in my hair when I went to be a professor at Harvard. Because aren't all professors have beards and longer hair? I even put the patches on my sport coat.
Did you?
You know, I wanted to, fit the role of being a Harvard professor. And so, and I've also been a biker in my life, and periodically I like to go back to being a biker. That's when I cut my beard like Johnny Depp for a summer, and I put dreadlocks in 2005. And I rode all over Minnesota, and no one recognized me because I had dreadlocks to my shoulders and this beard that looked like Captain Jack Sparrow. So it buys me seclusion by changing my looks and being a chameleon.
And is everything okay with the family?
It's marvelous.
Great.
Couldn't be better.
Governor, I really, it's been a thrill to have you on.
My pleasure. It's been fun to talk to you, and we'll do it again sometime.
Perfect. Governor Jesse Ventura.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.